Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Third Space Podcast, episode number 88, 18.9 inches. That's an interesting title, isn't it? Well, I won't discuss it for now. In this episode, Daniel and I play a game. I introduced this new game. I didn't come up with a clever title for it, but it's a game that tests Daniel's intuition on world records, particularly things that are the biggest or the longest. And so in a number of matchups, I have two things, and I asked Daniel to try to guess which is the biggest or which is the longest between the two. And we see how well he can choose and whether he's ballpark correct on his guesses for example, how heavy a thing is or how long a thing is. It's pretty fun. It's a nice, wholesome game until it isn't. And then after we wrap up the game, we discuss the recent inclusion of arachnophobia mode in video games. Now, if you're not familiar with arachnophobia mode, it's a toggle that developers have started adding in that will remove spiders from video games. It's a very interesting development, and we discuss whether it's a good thing, a bad thing, what are the benefits to it, what are the drawbacks, does it impact artistic vision, is it a sign of our cultural weakness, those kinds of things. It's a fun little discussion, and it's a fun episode overall, so I hope you enjoy it.
Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Hello.
Hello. How are you this fine day, Sunday?
Yeah, I'm doing great. My parents are visiting. Things are a little, like it's the beginning of my spring break. Got a lot to do, but I have time to do it, so I feel good.
Bring your parents on the podcast.
We
Guest
should
guest
make a more
episode.
concerted effort to bring on people.
Someone, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to get all of the. I mean, they have to have a microphone for one thing, which is. a pain.
Yeah.
Although with your
Barrier to
parents,
entry.
there in person, you could put the microphone on the table and have a live round table. But anyway,
True.
I'm not really suggesting that.
Yeah.
I have a new segment for you today. It's not. I don't think it's going to be a recurring segment unless you really love it. But it is a just a little game that I think might be interesting and a little surprising, and just kind of wholesome, just kind of normal little
I
segment.
like wholesome, slightly surprising games.
All right. I didn't think of a witty title or anything. It's simply which is bigger, and I'm going to present to you.
Is this wholesome? Okay.
Yeah. Until we get closer to the end, it's pretty wholesome.
Okay.
But I'm going to present to you two things. The world's biggest this or the world's biggest that, and you have to try to guess which one you think is bigger.
Assuming you know the answer.
Yeah, of course I know the answer.
Yeah,
I looked them all up and have the information.
Right.
Usually from the Guinness Book of World Records, except when I couldn't find it there. And then, it's just an internet search, and who knows whether it's true. Who knows whether it's true with Guinness either, but we're just going to, for the sake of our own wholesome enjoyment, we're going to assume that these answers are true, and we can laugh and be shocked and so on.
I like it. Okay.
So, starting off, which one do you think is bigger, the world's biggest pumpkin or the world's biggest pig?
Oh, pumpkin for sure. I feel confident in this. I feel like there's these strange gourds that grow and you see them and you kind of go, well, we're technically classifying it as a pumpkin, but gourds are known to be wildly big. And pigs, yes, I can imagine even like a cow-sized pig, but I'm thinking, my guess is that the gourd, the pumpkin, can be room size, like just something bigger than a cow could ever be. I don't know, but I'm just going kind of gut with this. So I'm locking in.
Okay.
I'm betting more than I would bet on other things that I'm less sure about.
Do you have any just ballpark guess at how much it weighed? How much pumpkin, since you chose pumpkin, how much the pumpkin weighed?
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying something, I feel silly, and you might just be way out, but I'm going to really try to go in like 3,500 pounds or some crazy, because if it's the biggest ever recorded and stuff, it somehow is obviously an anomaly that just did not stop, and it basically collapsed in on itself or something, but like I might be way off, but like we're going big here, so
You're pretty good. You got a lot of pumpkin knowledge, innate pumpkin knowledge that I wouldn't have expected. So the world's biggest pumpkin weighed 2,749 pounds.
wow.
And that came in on 9th of October 2023. And it was confirmed by the Great Pumpkin Commonwealth, which is a thing, I guess.
2,700. How many? Can you say it one more time?
Yeah, 2,749.
Gosh.
So,
I know
yeah.
I was being crazy saying the number, and I'm sorry if that like
that
makes
was
it less
ball-
impressive, but it's just like
No,
yeah,
that
like-
was ballpark. You were ballpark correct. I was surprised. Apparently, this pumpkin was named Michael Jordan.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
What? Okay. Did it resemble him? I mean,
I don't know. Maybe they
Just the greatest of all time kind of thing. Like,
perhaps.
yeah.
By contrast, the world's biggest pig was named Big Bill.
Okay.
And he was a Poland China hog owned by some guy in Tennessee in 1933, and he weighed 2,552 pounds. So it's pretty close.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, like weight is different too. I was bigger, like pumpkin in terms
Yeah.
of mass. I guess
Maybe
is
I
the
should
right
have
word. Not gonna be as dense.
Maybe I should have clarified whether I meant size.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask
volume.
those questions because like bigger, I just meant like taking up more space in like physical space. Well, I get that. That's like bread. I'm just considering whatever its diameter or whatever its measurements would be the size of bread, not if.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. The next one: the world's biggest human baby at birth,
Okay.
or the world's biggest avocado. And this is by weight.
Okay. My knee jerk says human baby, and then I put on my psychological hat and go, that feels more expected, so therefore you'd find an avocado and go, wow, like, but I'm trying to think of a massive avocado, which is gonna weigh more in terms of density, I would think. I'm gonna lock in with avocado, even though it's counterintuitive to me, by weight. Okay, yes.
That is incorrect, sir. Just biggest human
Maybe
baby.
trust my gut here. Okay.
Yeah. The heaviest baby ever born was Anna Haining Bates, who weighed 22 pounds.
Wow. That Cosmo weighs 22 pounds yesterday, exactly.
Can you imagine?
He's 11 months. No, I can't. I want to know I want to see the woman that gave birth to
Yeah,
Anna,
right.
you know?
Both.
And did Anna struggle with weight problems, or was a giant, or like just a big baby? Like
Sorry, the heaviest baby was born from Anna Haining Bates.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I may have misread that one. It
may
was
have
a
just misread
boy. It was a boy. He was 28 inches tall. The baby died 11 hours after birth, and both
Oh.
parents had gigantism. So,
Okay. Yeah.
but the heaviest baby to survive infancy apparently was 22 pounds 8 ounces. So another one somewhere
Okay.
that I don't have. Anyway, the heaviest avocado was only 5.6 pounds.
Okay, so it never got impressive. See,
Yes.
that's the kind of mystery of food is like, was there one that didn't contain some weird anomaly that didn't contain itself? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
By the way, I would think that a human baby would be more dense than an avocado. Like an avocado
yeah, I think
is
you're
kind
right.
of
I don't know what I
creamy and air, has that nut in the middle, which, like water
just
is
was
just
thinking
water
about
is just pretty
avocados. I've been
pretty dense,
they're
and people
hard,
are
and if
mostly
you
water.
threw one and hit someone, it would hurt a lot. If I threw a baby at you,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Not
hardness
much,
and
but
density aren't the same
Can't
thing.
throw a baby as well. So
Yeah,
it's a
hardness and
dumb
density.
way my brain worked.
Yeah, hardness and density not the same thing. So.
Yeah. You're
All right. The world's longest conveyor belt, or the world's longest human chain.
I gotta go with human chain because there's got to be something like we're gonna break the record, we're all gonna hold hands, and it's gonna be so long. Whereas the conveyor belt is built for utility and happens to be the longest, and so with that in mind, you're like trying to do something impressive versus something that happens to be impressive because of its utility. So I'm going to go humans holding hands.
Good reasoning. Yep, you're right. Back in 1989, people wanting to be independent from the Soviet Union, approximately 2 million people joined hands, and that stretched 419 miles.
That's really neat.
Yeah,
Wow.
I
I vaguely have heard that before. I just wouldn't
really?
have been able to tell you. It said it was in protest of something. So
yeah, it says that the chain lasted for 15 minutes, but that's all nice. It sounds nice and everything, but I'm skeptical of the 2 million people that just for a moment or so someone didn't scratch their nose and break the
Yeah.
chain, and was there really a moment when it was actually 419 miles long? I
that's
don't know.
cool. I'd like to think at least one, even just singular moment counts for me. But
Yeah, oh yeah, it
I'll double
counts.
down on skepticism and say like, okay, obviously there was this gap that was 50 feet long, but we're counting it because of this body of water or something. Like, no, you can't count
You
it.
can't
if
count
was
it.
Truly broken. I will count it if a kid's picking his nose and like not holding the hand next to him. Like, I'll count it. I'm fine. You're standing next to each other. And you could hold hands. I'm counting it.
I'm not counting that. There has to be a moment when, like, if you were to electrocute the person on one end, then the one on
High
the
enough
other
voltage.
the one on the other end would
But
feel
my
it.
skepticism's stronger than yours. Ultimately, I'm saying that like I'm doubtful that even them standing next to each other, like in my more liberal definition of allowing it, I don't think like I just bet there were like moments of bigger gaps. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're probably right. By contrast, the world's longest conveyor belt is 61 miles long. That's a pretty long conveyor belt.
That is like, what's it doing?
It's in the Western Sahara Desert, and it's used to transport phosphate to the sea. Actually, this is the fact that spawned this game, because I saw that fact and I was like, "What the heck? What is this? What is the conveyor belt doing that long?" And
Yeah,
I thought,
I need
like,
to know what's
"Oh,
it doing.
yeah,
When
what's
you
it
say
doing?"
that, it makes more sense a little. Like, okay,
Yeah, but still, I was like, "Huh? I wonder what other weird, biggest, longest things there are."
I would like lots of long conveyor belt, like city stuff and like human friendly conveyor belts where we're getting on things and going places and
Yeah,
like
imagine
the Bennett Road idea kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah, imagine if energy wasn't a problem. If we in 20 years figure out fusion energy, we can just replace all of our sidewalks with moving sidewalks, all of our
Yes.
roads with moving roads, for that matter, and everything can just be conveyor belts, and we just kind of stand there while we are moved around. That would
And
be
they're continually
awesome.
running and it's not wasteful, you're saying, because
Yeah.
we've solved energy,
That would be
whatever.
that would be
Yeah,
awesome. That's the
very
world
cool.
I hope we get to. And it won't be a hover future. It'll be a conveyor future. And I
Conveyor
was
future.
wrong all this time.
I like it.
All right, the world's longest roller coaster or the world's longest water slide.
Ooh, I don't have an intuition. I've actually been right on all my intuitions so far. Like, and I was gonna just say whatever I thought. I guess my intuition says roller coaster, and so I'm gonna stick with that. Just I'm saying these water slides can be incredible with their not loop-de-loops but sideway loops, or weaving in and out of themselves. But ultimately, no way they can be as long as the tracks of like even in Six Flags in Georgia. There's that Goliath that goes around the park and stuff. It's got to be roller coaster.
You are incorrect. It is a water slide, but not by much. The longest water slide is in China, and it is 8,933 feet, 11 inches long. They really got specific with their measurement.
And
Going down
in not in metric. That's in
Oh,
USA terms. Or
well, they did give it in metric originally, but I converted it for
Okay.
us so we could compare.
For
It goes
comparison,
down this,
5,280 feet is a mile. So you're sliding for over a mile.
yeah.
Like I feel like that could be bad. Like, it has to be very well oiled or
Watered.
the lubrication needs to be there. Like,
An
just
oil
because it's like,
slide.
oh, your skin's making contact. If it's not really smooth, a
Well,
mile, like you could
it
start
might
to,
it might be one of the kind where you sit in a little tube or a float or something. I don't
it
know.
has to be a tube thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It goes down the side of a mountain. The longest roller coaster is the Steel Dragon 2000 in Nagashima Spa Land in Japan. It is 8,133 feet, so it's 800 feet shorter
Okay,
than the slide. Still pretty close.
very close.
I kind of wish we would have sought out that roller coaster when we went to Japan now.
Yeah, I know. Just anything that's like, I think it's worth going out of your way to do world's best, longest, shortest, smallest. Like this could be if you were to do a segment like this, I do like it. I mean, there's all the world's whateverest, and picking is interesting. And it's interesting. I don't know why my mind immediately, when you said it was going to be like world's largest pancake or world's largest, I don't know why pancake. It was just pancake. And I was going, I don't know. You can make it however big you want. If there was a big thing that was going to be wrapped in some sort of fundraiser, and I wouldn't have no idea. And then you went with more natural things. But then you've gone into...
there's a little bit of variety. When I was scrolling through all of the world records... there were a lot of world's biggest pancake, world's biggest pizza, world's biggest donut, whatever, all that stuff. And there were a lot. Allow me to complain for a moment. There are a lot of really lame ones that if I was Mr. Guinness, I would just be like, listen, we have to have some standards around here, because there were literally dozens of longest line of insert normal item here, like lamps or like washed dishes or seeds, like. Who gives a crap about the longest line of seeds? No one cares. That's not. And then a
line of seeds is like you're putting two concepts together that don't belong. It needs to belong in our world for it to, if that makes sense. Right. Is that what you're saying?
Or there was another category that was, again, just multiple ones that were the largest word made of insert item. And it's like, I don't care. Like, that's not... Like, yeah, it's impressive you made a big word, but the type of item that you made it out of doesn't make it special, and so I don't care.
Like, biggest word that you could read from space might matter. But
sure, right. Made of whatever you want.
With rocks or, like, pennies. I don't know. I mean, I guess... I just don't know. Like...
Yeah, it was
It just means,
stupid.
like, if you want to set a world record, you and I could come up with, like... We could try to own some silly world records and get them.
Yeah, right.
Wanted, I suppose.
Largest word made with chewed bubble gum. And like largest word made with Bennett's socks. I mean, who cares?
With Bennett's socks, no one can break it because you just don't buy any
unless
more
they
socks and do
rob
it
me. Unless they rob me, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Continuing on, the world's longest by distance paper airplane flight, or the world's longest boomerang throw.
I'm going gut again. Airplane flight, like if you get the perfect throw and you do it off of a mountain and it just keeps going, whereas a boomerang, like it's gonna come back to you, I'm assuming, and it's just something about your...
And it's gonna be zero.
Yeah, it's a successful throw is 0 every time. No, but like even if it goes, there's something about arm strength that cannot compete with throwing off a mountain. And somehow, obviously, if you throw it off a mountain, the wind's gonna take it and it's probably gonna mess it up. But if you're world's longest, gotta be an airplane, the paper airplane.
Wrong, and wrong by a surprising amount. The farthest flight by a paper aircraft is 289 feet 9 inches. It was achieved in 2022 by Dylan Rubel.
289 feet. Is that? I guess. Are we talking about then? You're not talking about throwing that off a mountain. Because...
I assume not. Yeah, I assume not. It's supposed to be on flat ground.
So now if I recalibrate, that makes it different for me. But anyway, it sounds like I'm justifying in post. So whatever.
The longest boomerang throw is actually the record. The longest throw of any object without a velocity aiding feature. I guess that means like a rocket or I don't know, throwing it off a mountain or whatever. Is 1,401 feet by David Schumi. With a boomerang in 2005.
That sounds outrageous. What is happening, like with the boomerang? Like, is it just going so fast and like speeding up because of the shape and like hovering as well? Like,
yeah, it's crazy. It must be like, I don't know, not coming back, or maybe I don't know. I'm not sure. I think if I remember correctly,
and instead of U-ing it, like it does the same energy but forward. I don't understand what I'm saying.
I think if I remember correctly, when I was looking these up, this one had a video and you could actually see it be thrown, and it just looked like a really freaking long throw.
Yeah.
All right. The world's longest human penis. You knew it was coming. No pun intended. Or the world's longest chimichanga. Is that a chimichanga in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
I mean, it's a chimichanga easy, right? I mean,
What? How? Yeah, you're right. This is the world's longest chimichanga. I don't know why I chose that one. I just thought
that chimichanga because it's
it's
so
a funny,
thick,
a funny
too, and when you're
comparison.
like-
I just thought it was a funny comparison. How long do you think the world's longest human penis is?
Longest ever. God, there's got to be like a weird anomaly that gets it to like 18 inches or something.
Wow, you know a lot about penises, my friend.
What's the answer?
It's 18.9 inches. Have you probably already looked this up. You probably
No,
this
I
is
swear,
probably
I,
just
I wasn't even pulling from like. That seems like something like eighth grade me would want to just know, like because I wanted to know all the dirty jokes and all the anything, just so I was not out of the loop. But no, because I was going 23, 24 inches. That's just too much. Like I don't even think so. Yeah,
Huh.
18.
Wow, I'm just really shocked at how quickly and just easily you knew that number. You just pulled that penis number out of your butt and it was right.
I wonder if when this person gets erect, like they get lightheaded or, like it's just like,
It's a 54-year-old guy from Mexico, apparently.
wow. Imagine the bravado or what's the word I'm looking for? Like just the, like, I bet
Oh yeah,
he
the
talks about it quite a
swagger.
bit.
Yeah,
the
he's
swagger.
probably anywhere he is. That's just like his icebreaker. Like, oh hey, by the way, I'm the record holder for the world's longest human penis. Believe me?
Don't believe me? Like, the real question is, would you want to see it? Like, yeah, maybe.
I don't really think so. I can imagine. I
Can
mean,
you? 'Cause
you
I
know, it's
imagine
not.
things might get
yeah,
a little unusual.
I don't know. It's not that far off from what I'm used to, I guess.
It's hard to keep this family friendly and talk about it with
Hey, everyone has a
family-friendly
penis, so it's not
Yeah, it's just a
anything
matter of fact.
unusual. Yeah. All right. The longest chimichanga, by the way, is 25 feet 7 inches. So that's quite a
Do
bit
you
longer
find
than a penis.
the human-made ones even interesting, or do you? Because I actually feel like it's just like, okay, a community gets
Yeah.
together and they spend a day and they probably have a video, and it's not
You're
that that's
right.
bad. It's kind of
It's-
neat that they're coming together and doing something, but it's not. I'm more interested in the gourd or the biggest pig or these
Right.
natural occurring things because
Something that can't be achieved without like the stars aligning in some way.
yes, it's nature's records versus like we could build a bigger chimichanga. Like there's no
Yeah.
limit if we all decided yeah.
Human achievements have some. I agree with you. There's like different tiers of impressive, and this is closer to the bottom. But like human achievements are somewhat impressive, and making a big chimichanga is a human achievement. Like,
I would love to be like if our school say was gonna like raise some awareness and whatever, it's always probably I'm just guessing these are all linked to something. And you want to show up on Saturday and be part of the world record? Like, yes, I do. I want to be there, and I will talk about it. It'll be like one of my,
yeah,
introduce yourself and tell
one of the
tell
most
two truths and a
interesting
lie or
things
something, and that'd be one of my
about you.
truths.
Yeah.
Like it would just be like, oh, I participated in creating the world's biggest chimichanga. Like I like it, so like I find all of that interesting, but. Conceptually, I'm way more interested in like the tallest human being to ever live versus
Right.
like the chimichanga being made. Like,
The world's longest duration pee, or the longest on-screen kiss.
wow. Pee. It's got to be pee because I can imagine a pee going for like 6 minutes or something. Probably not, but like this. I harken back to David telling me about his 3-minute pees and all, like the group just like laughing and going, "What are you talking about? Not a continual stream." And he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "I no, like we're not count. I don't." I wish David were here to defend himself, but man, we just gave him such hell, right? Like, we were not peeing for 3 minutes. Like I don't. Anyway, so he claims that, and if that's true, then and he's just some regular guy, then maybe it is 6 minutes or something. But the longest on-screen kiss, I would imagine, even if you're going for a long time, just cannot exceed without kind of getting boring or not achieving the effect. I mean, cannot exceed a long pee. So I'm gonna go with pee.
The world's longest pee was by David in Florida, and it's 3 minutes and 17 seconds. No, I'm just kidding. The world's longest pee was 508 seconds. That's almost 8.5 minutes.
Wow.
Achieved by a man named Andrew Stanton in 2018.
Does that mean there were
Apparently.
like records holding, like who they were making sure they were verifying the stream and all this? I mean,
I do not know and have some amount of skepticism about this one.
and when are you dribbling and
yeah,
still
right.
counting it?
I know,
And then,
yeah,
how
that's-
second stream, that kind of stuff, you know.
That's all the stuff I want to know too, and I don't know that. But apparently, 8.5 minutes. And
What
we had
year?
2018.
Okay.
Whereas
And-
the longest on-screen kiss in a commercial feature film lasted 6 minutes and 44 seconds,
Yeah, I was right. Okay.
and it took. I mean, it's still really long.
That is long and not like. Tell me about it.
It takes place between Stephanie Sharon and Gregory Smith in Kids in America, a 2005 movie.
I don't understand how you could watch them making out for 6 minutes, and I mean, is it a sex scene? And they're
I don't
kind
know.
of blurring the lines of.
I'm not sure. What is it? A comedy and it's a joke, and they're just like
That's-
always
yeah.
on screen. You know,
Comedy, yes,
kissing,
because let's for a moment not go to the comedy route. It's the passion, the tension is so great, or they're reuniting after being separated is so great that they try to tell us a singular story through this kiss. It takes us on a roller coaster. They start off shocked, they start smooching a little, like pecking almost, that turns into like, and you have to tell me there has to be a story arc within the kiss that like mirrors the movie if you're going to do it right, and like. It takes us on a journey that we're like, you're giving us new information, and they're rolling around, and if it's not becoming a sex scene in a movie, I can't even imagine. I'm trying to imagine a kiss exceeding 25 30 seconds without the audience kind of going, geez, this is so long, you know.
Now that I think about it, we've seen a longer one when we watched our B movies. The one that was Kiss, Vacation in Phantom Land, or whatever it was. You remember that one with the rock band Kiss? And so we could just
the rock band kiss, longest kiss
on film on screen.
Whoever's the tallest actor in Kiss,
That's the longest
band
one,
Kiss,
yeah.
he's the longest kiss. And
The world's longest by duration whistling marathon versus the world's longest jump rope marathon.
This is interesting because my knee jerk was to go, well, whistling is not as hard as jump roping, right? Like, one is more physically demanding, jump rope, I think most people say. But then I go, hold on a second, because I can imagine someone who's in supreme shape and like has trained their muscles and they're an expert jumper, that like just a basic jump rope, they could go for a while. Whereas like lungs, I feel like people could just run longer than someone could like sustain breath potentially. So it's like a little counterintuitive to me. So I don't know where to go with this. I'm actually going to say that at some point your lungs, even if you're an expert whistler, just cannot. Like, there are people, you know how you hear these crazy things, like a guy that can run like 500 miles or some crazy. I don't know. I don't fully understand or wrap my head around what they're saying, because I don't know if he's just seriously jogging 500 miles or not. But like, there are machine people, and I can imagine that applying to that jump rope. And I imagine there's someone with amazing lungs, but lungs just cannot exceed the entire full body machinery of a rhythmic jump rope. So I'm going to say that the jump rope is longer.
Well, you're right, but I don't quite understand your reasoning. Like, your lungs are helping you breathe all the time, and the only thing required to whistle is movement of air and your lips in a particular shape. I mean, maybe you have to keep your saliva, on your lips to get the perfect whistle or something.
Yeah,
but
my reasoning still go. I'm saying I'm pushing back against that. I'm saying that like it's more equivalent to playing an instrument, and that requires.
Well,
some
whistling is
disciplined lungs.
art. I agree with you there. Whistling is a higher form of art than rap, for example.
And I'm assuming they're not just hitting a singular note where they just go, which you're right. Like, I don't know how much that's demanding of me or my lip muscles or my lungs itself, but I'm going to just assume that they were like, they're in the realm of basically like playing instruments, and that's just something that cannot max out. And so,
Okay,
yeah,
so how
that's
long
all.
do you think? How long do you think the whistling and jump rope marathon?
Okay,
How long do you think they
this
were?
is going to be bad answers probably. Maybe I'll impress you.
Yeah, maybe.
The whistling went for 19 hours, and the jump rope went for like 40.
Not bad. The longest jump rope marathon was 33 hours and 20 minutes,
Okay.
achieved by someone in Joey Matze in Greensboro, North Carolina, in 2009.
Cool.
The longest whistling marathon lasted 25 hours, 30 minutes,
I
and
was
5
not that
seconds.
bad. I
Yeah,
can't
you weren't that
believe
bad.
that.
And it was by Jennifer Anavi in 2010, and she rotated among a selection of 125 different tunes, each at least 2 minutes in length. So I guess she just had a bunch of songs that she went through
That's
to
a weird
keep herself sane.
continual. Like she gets to sip some water. Probably not. Like
I'm sure she did. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you get to take a small break and sip some water.
really though. I mean, continual whistling is not drinking water. Like in between songs. I just
Well, I mean, do you allow the jump rope marathon guy to drink water?
if he can, I think you can continue jumping and sip water. Someone could kind of squirt some water in your mouth. Yes, I think so. Like runners run and they grab the little cup
So,
and run.
I mean,
like,
what if the pause in between whistle notes? You know, some songs might have a little pause between notes. What
I know,
if you
it
could
gets
drink
so
water in
granular.
there?
How long do you get to pause? I think it'd be funny to watch. You know, it'd be more entertaining. Like the end of his jump rope, he's just sort of collapsing, and I can visualize it. But the end of her whistling, it's just getting like the notes are missing, and she's starting to like shake a little.
Sway, yeah.
And you're like, just seeing her.
Is she gonna make it? Now, see, this would be better than our normal sports that we watch on TV, right? Like watching someone try to take the whistling marathon championship, and you're watching the very end of it. Like that's better than the Super Bowl.
That would be funny. You're watching the end of actually anyone on pure exhaustion. The last 15 minutes of that whistle-a-thon would just like. I doubt she was just like hitting everything great and just stopped. Kind of thought, I'll do 8 more songs of 2 minutes and be done. Like it had to be like quivering and like weirdness. And someone's like, "We gotta stop her! Don't let her do another song." And she's like, I can push through the cramps, and her lips are twitching.
Her lips are.
and stuff.
You can imagine the funny expression, the cramping lips.
Biting,
blowing
like, oh
and
no,
it's-
the notes aren't gonna hold.
It's not whistling anymore. You're just.
Yeah, and they're like, we gotta stop the timer. We have to stop this. Somebody stop this.
All right, I got 2 more. The world's. No, this is one that, at least when I read these, I thought, you know what? I might have a chance. These just, for whatever reason, sounded more achievable. The world's longest burp or the world's longest lip trill. I guess is what they're talking about.
Yeah. That always makes your nose tickle immensely when you do a long version of that. So I can only imagine what the world's longest did to them. You know what I mean? When you, like, as
Yeah,
a
they
kid, it
probably
almost
never
makes me wanna
recovered.
do it myself and experience the tickle after a sustained. The lip trill, TRILL, right? Trill.
Yeah.
We're still saying one vocal expression. You can't just keep as you.
Yeah.
Okay. And the
Yeah, you
burp.
can't- yeah.
It's both one lung capacity is what I'm kind of
Yes.
trying to say, I think. So now I'm asking myself, to what degree, like, I feel like there are degrees of burps. There's the big, deep ones that are letting a lot of air out fast, and that's just not going to be long. But it's kind of like farts, right? You could do a skinny fart or whatever you want to call it, a whiny fart. There's probably a whiny burp that's letting out very little, whereas the lip trill is, I don't think you can negotiate the lesser air. Like, you have to have a degree of air, Whereas you could, if you're a professional burper, which I'm assuming there are some people that have control, they can really drag that out. So I'm gonna go with the burp being longer.
It is the lip trill, but
Okay,
it's
wow.
pretty close. The longest burp was 1 minute and 13 seconds. That is 73 seconds. Achieved by Michelle Forgione, also known as Rut Mysterio. I don't know, that's kind of weird.
Sounds like a wrestling name.
It does.
Rut Mysterio, and it's a girl. It's a woman.
I don't know. It's an Italian person, so Michelle, maybe male name in there.
Michelle, known as Rut Mysterio.
Michelle.
It
Yeah.
just has a very pornish, like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it was in 2009. I don't know the details, so yeah, maybe
Just
don't
not
look it up.
appealing. Like, oh, my altered ego is Rut Mysterio. God. Anyway,
The longest continual lip trill was 80 seconds, only 80 seconds, by Robert Uomini in California in 2001. 80 seconds. Like, I feel like with effort, you know,
20 seconds. Yeah, it's
you
like
could get there. I tried, and I didn't make it that far.
how far did you get? And you're like your first try, are you getting to like 30 seconds?
Yeah,
You
it
know?
was around there. Yeah, so, that's still, it's a long way to go. I feel like there's got to be some special trill technique where you let out the smallest amount of air, but you still get a trill.
Do you see my reasoning though? Is that like trill demands you release a certain degree, whereas like natural burpers who are like probably natural at controlling at a young age and then like rein it in can let out some very high pitched squeaky burp that's like letting out a tiny bit of air.
Yeah.
Whereas I just don't think trill you can negotiate as much. There is a limit on to continue having the lips blowing and
Right,
or
right.
vibrating.
Maybe
I don't know.
if you have like very thin lips, like they trill more easily. And if you have a
Oh man,
Yeah, it would be
it's actually
hard.
impressive. I'm even trying to go for when I think about it. 80 doesn't sound like a lot, but like there's a lot of air coming out. Yeah,
that was
yeah.
I mean that was a vigorous lip trill.
Yes, I
But
know,
if you
I
do
know.
like a
Try to do the gentlest lip trill you can. Just try it.
it's hard to keep it trilling.
That's what I mean. You got to push the air. Like you don't have to make the sound. I don't think.
This is gonna be a great like ASMR podcast.
Like
Okay,
a
I guess-
lot of air. Like if you're just doing it casually, we're talking about like 6 to 8 seconds and you're out. I'm feeling lightheaded. I don't like 80 seconds. I'm now impressed by. I disagree with you. It sounds achievable, but at
Well,
first,
that's
but now I'm
that's
like,
all I
hell
meant.
no.
It's just that it sounds achievable. This
Yeah,
is only 80
yeah.
seconds. All right, the last one and my favorite. This one made me laugh. The world's longest video game title, or the world's longest song title. Now, this is by a number of characters in the title, including spaces and punctuation.
I would think song title being funny, and because a game isn't willing to take like it's just songs. There's so many released, and you can be silly on an album and release a song with a hilariously long title to be funny, and there's no real risk. Whereas a game title, there's marketing and teams involved. So I want to say, and I will say music like just a song title. However, I think sometimes I don't know why my mind goes to like Japanese games having long, clunky, maybe translation based title issues. But someone at some point when translating it, the team would go, no. Like this is too long. You're risking market like sales. So there's just some limitation because of sales that are not applied to songs. That's why.
All right, so you're on with the song.
Yeah, I'm going the song longer.
It is the video game that has longer, and you are definitely right about the Japanese thing. There's like I don't know, it's a cultural thing, and they have games that have really long subtitles and everything. But I'll tell you the longest song first.
Yes.
It's in Swedish, but I think the title is in English. 305 characters, it's 52 words. And so the name of the song is The Sad But True Story of Ray Mingus, the lumberjack of Bulk Rock City, and his never slacking stride in exploiting the so far undiscovered areas of the intention to bodily intercourse from the opposite species of his kind during intake of all the mental condition that could be derived from fermentation. And that is a song by the Swedish group Rednecks.
Do you know? Do you know how long the song actually is? Like the
I don't
playtime,
know.
if it
I don't know.
if it really explores the details of like trying to get laid with alcohol. I assume like there was some.
Yeah, right.
Like yeah.
I don't know. I didn't listen to it. Maybe I should have.
Very interesting.
Maybe I should have listened to that song and played this video game, which came in at 336 characters. And I'm not going to read the Japanese name, but I'll read the translated English name. Summer-colored high school, adolescent record, a summer at school on an island where I contemplate how the first day after I transferred, I ran into a childhood friend and was forced to join the journalism club where, while my days as a paparazzi kid with great scoops made me rather popular among the girls, but strangely my camera is full of panty shots and where my candid romance is going.
Oh man, that is so much English, I suppose. like overwhelming. At first it was just nonsense, and then it started to tell a story overview, and then it got weird and back to like sexual English at the end. Like that was a journey I went on, man.
Yeah.
I liked the song title. It also took me on a journey and was being silly with its word choice. Well, I like the video game title because I'm not sure of the intention, how intentionally funny it was. I don't know. I too much cultural distance to understand what's going on, and that it leaves it's more bizarre, like and funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
That's all. Did you have fun with that?
I actually had a lot of fun and would encourage more, like whether it's world's most and fill in the blank. I liked it a lot. It also was a good length for a more punchy podcast like we want to do today. But let me ask you this: how did you decide? The comparisons were unique, right? They felt of Bennett. How did you go about deciding? Like, penis and chimichanga, very funny, but like all of them were like sort of incomparable in a way.
Yeah, some of them
it's like this or that sort of mentality, right?
Yeah, some of them I just thought of, and I thought, oh, I wonder what the world's biggest of this is, and then, I wonder if the world's biggest of this is comparable. And like Pumpkin and Pig were that way, and so I looked up those two things, and turns out they were, relatively same ballpark, and so I included that one. Other ones I thought, I wonder what the world's biggest or longest this is, and then I couldn't think of a good alternative or couldn't find the answer for what the world's longest or biggest actually was, and so I looked at the Guinness World Records and looked for a thing of ballpark similar length that was also interesting, and then included that one.
I would actually be more interested if you found things that seemed reasonable and we would both predict were in the ballpark of greatest whatever, but they weren't. Like I know you're using that as a metric to beat, all right, I'm not choosing two outrageous things. The more interesting thing to me, though, is that if it seems intuitive to you that these things would be similar and they're really not, like the boomerang and the airplane, or paper airplane, like that interests me, the disparity. Like these, like, knowing I'm going in and there's like big disparity makes it more interesting, because I would not think there's a disparity and I don't even know which one to choose, and that is funny to me. Or not funny, but thrilling to know that one of these trumps the other in a big way, because when it's similar, it's like it doesn't feel as it doesn't feel like the stakes are high, like it was a coin toss anyway,
I have with that segment done, I have something that I was kind of considering recently, that I wanted to run by you and get your thoughts on. I don't know if we talked about this before. There's a trend, I guess even there's a little segue here since the last thing was tangentially about video games, but there's a trend in video games in recent years, the last 5 years or so, where in the options, in the settings of the game, there are some special choices that players can make to make the game a little bit more comfortable for themselves. And one of these is arachnophobia mode. Have you heard of this in video games?
I wish I could say yes, and I'm wanting to say, like, are you just saying like it eliminates all the spiders because people are like it's such a common phobia that they're like, we'll take the slimy creature stuff out, or
Yeah,
what?
that's exactly right. Yep, it's characterized under the accessibility label, along with
Wow.
like colorblind options, and it removes
I'm all
spiders.
for the colorblind stuff. Like it's a neat idea that like if you're colorblind and it's gonna I have to think this through, but you're just saying there's a colorblind feature. I haven't thought about like there might be something glowing a certain color meant to reveal something so that you can progress in the game, right? Like the treasure once you see this color difference, and if you can't, that kind of sucks. It'd be nice if they could do like something to indicate to the colorblind person to
Right. Well,
progress or discover.
I'm a fan of Splatoon, and the different ink colors on the ground. If you're colorblind, certain combinations can look very confusing. I'm not colorblind,
Right,
by
so
the
we
way.
could just contrast those more
Right.
than
And so there is an option.
that's
There's
what
an
I mean.
option in
Yeah.
Splatoon that makes some contrast more. So yeah, that's fine. But this is arachnophobia
Wild.
mode, and so it removes some of the graphical elements of spider-like creatures. Like some games remove their legs. Some noises get removed. Like for example,
Man.
there's a game called Grounded by Microsoft where the player is shrunk down to bug size, and apparently the spiders can be removed, which seems damaging to the artistic integrity of the game,
100%.
perhaps.
100%.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor had an arachnophobia mode introduced after a developer on the game said he couldn't work on the game due to his
Oh
arachnophobia.
man.
Hogwarts Legacy, a really popular game, that
Yes.
has an arachnophobia mode.
Wait.
Satisfactory has an arachnophobia mode. Apparently, it's kind of a joke mode. They replace all the spiders with photorealistic cat images.
That is funny. If there's a pushback, I'll like laugh and kind of say good job, but they're mocking it like clearly. Or if you subverted expectations and provided something more disturbing in its
Yeah,
place,
right. Right.
But like, okay, that sort of I react pretty strongly hearing that.
I'd like to hear your reaction. And what do you
Couple of
think?
things.
What do you think is like, what's the best case for it? And then like what is your opinion on the matter? Should this be
Yeah.
a practice that we carry out?
Okay, so the best case for it is that you have people with debilitating arachnophobia and now who would otherwise not have access to the game, and now they do. So I don't know what percentage of people that is.
Arachnophobia affects 3.5 to 6.1% of the global population.
Well, I have some thoughts on how that might go up if you start putting it in games, by the way.
Yeah.
Like almost certainly the irony of like instilling it, like that term, I would imagine the average person wouldn't even know. And then you start putting it in all the games and elevating it and saying you should fear these things. Like, well, and like spiders? I don't like them, man. I mean, we joke like Danielle will kill the spiders, I'll kill the cockroaches kind of thing. But like, honestly, if she's not there and the spider needs to be killed, I'll do it. And like, but there was something performative about it at early ages of my life where it's like, spiders. And I played it up and internalized it, and it's real. It's all like it's weird. Because who likes creepy, crawly spider things in real life? Like, that's not an enjoyable. I mean, I guess I'd say less people enjoy it than are repelled, whatever, by it. So like, but like putting it in categorizing it that way. I'm jumping ahead. Let me go back and defend it. Like, the idea of creating access to games for everyone. I mean, even this is fraught with like, okay, if you have an artistic vision and you put something out there and it's not for everyone, that's totally fine. So I'm actually not saying goals should be to water down art so that it's accessible to all. Like, I think to create is to risk offense, right? You put stuff out there and some people are going to like it and some people are not, and that's the way the world works, and it's fine. I think, though, this idea that oh, there's one small barrier to entry, but that barrier is actually not small for me, and if I can remove that barrier, I have lots of enjoyment and access. It's like wheelchair ramps or something. Like probably a good idea to just put them like making things wheelchair accessible. Like I don't know. Like that's generally not opposed to that. I know that things can like then power dynamics and politics come into play and forcing companies to do things they wouldn't otherwise. I don't know. So there's
Can
just
you can you dig into the difference between a colorblind mode and an arachnophobia mode, and why one is acceptable and one is less acceptable?
Well, okay, that's a good point. Like, I'm gonna get in a slightly uncomfortable position of defending. Like, if you're born colorblind, you simply just, you can't work on that. Your cones and rods operate in a certain way, and like your eyes, and like if
Wow,
like,
Daniel's doing some science. Nice.
like it's innate, and you could argue that your predisposition toward having arachnophobia is also innate, but I think that the difference with arachnophobia is that the world has spiders in it. You don't want to be as freaked out, and so what's the term? Not logotherapy, but like behavioral
Exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy, that's the word I was looking for. And so you need to lean into it. And actually video games would be a very good exposure therapy thing to do, because it's about as safe as it gets. And come on, like we need to I'm worried we don't have as healthy distinctions between real life and digital worlds, like games and social media and movies and all of that. And so if we blur those lines, we have blurred those lines socially, emotionally, digitally. It's all like your digital life and your quote unquote real life are like so intertwined that like if you're so upset by video games, like I'm just saying we're feeding weakness, man. I mean, it is. I'm not even trying to make. It's just feeding weakness, obviously. Yeah. Whereas if you just don't have rods and cones, like, or sorry, if they operate differently and don't pick up the color, like, dude, like, thank you for giving me access to the game I wouldn't have otherwise have access. The other one's like, hey, I have preferences or even innate weaknesses, and I don't want to work on them. In fact, I want you to make it worse for all of society because of my issue.
Yes.
And elevate. I want, like, because I honestly believe arachnophobia. Then what comes next? Like, you can do all sorts of phobias. Until,
right. That was my next question.
Like, why arachnophobia is a real head scratcher for me. Why that one and not what's the one where people are afraid of or like disgusted by pores and like little holes and stuff and like images of coral and like hands with holes in it.
Yeah. Trypophobia, I think, is that one.
Something like that. I think, or I'm sure arachnophobia is not the highest phobia. What about heights in games that like, okay, so Zelda now has to like.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know how
it's all flat. All the VR.
Yeah, everything's
I mean,
flat,
that's the thing, right? Like VR, obviously, one of its thrills is that it can make you feel like you're really high up, because you're looking around. There's like the thing where you're balancing on a board or whatever. And
this is good for people with fear of heights. They can go confront it in a safe setting. Like, this is excellent.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I agree. But the topic brought that question in my mind as well. Like, oh, what's next? What's the slippery slope? Because as we know, the slippery slope fallacy is a fallacy, and slippery slopes are real. And so if you start including arachnophobia modes, what's next? It made me wonder, by way of comparison, I asked you to compare to the colorblind mode, but what about like blood and gore toggles? Because like video game, you asked perhaps why arachnophobia? I think probably because spiders are just very common in video games. They're common enemies, monstrous things in caves. And blood and gore is another common video game trope, right? There's a lot of violent video games, Mortal Kombat or your shooting games or whatever. So do you think that turning off blood and gore is also acceptable, or does that infringe on the artistic vision because it makes people squeamish? Or, I mean, is there any justification for that?
That's a very good counter, because I want to say there's something different, and I'm having trouble thinking about why. I mean, I guess I would say one of the pleasure of video games is the thrill of the blood and guts in a safe, like in a way that you're not actually spilling blood and guts. So you're getting to, explore domains you wouldn't otherwise explore. And argue, if I'm taking the favorable side, that's a healthy, cathartic thing to do. So you don't do it in real life potentially, or like you get to have simulated combat war, and without you lose the game and you turn it off and you play again later, and so that's all healthy. I I can see the appeal to like, oh, my 11-year-old wants to play this game, and let's, objections to screen time and video games aside, you say, okay, well, this one's really bloody, but I can actually click a button, I can put it on a mode where it's not quite as gruesome and upsetting, I suppose. Like, that sounds theoretically appealing, and I have a little less, I take it a little less seriously, the artistic integrity of a game, because I actually think the spiders in a game as a creation could be part of the experience of that cave and setting the mood and like telling the story. But I think the blood and guts also creates, like, whether it's the suspense or the payoff or the satisfaction or
think about like a Resident Evil,
What's
or
that?
think about like a Resident Evil game or something where, that kind of like gore is part of the experience.
It's part of the game. Taking that out is. But what about like a Call of Duty where like it really is more like combat oriented, but the blood is like a little like add-on. Like, do you need the blood splattered on the wall after the guy's shot in the head? Like,
or I'm sure you remember the Mortal Kombat controversy.
I mean, that was it. That was the game that was like led to game ratings. I mean, that's the game. I don't know if you knew that. That was what led to Mature and all of that.
Didn't they turn the blood green on Super Nintendo or something?
No, it turned it into sweat. It was just gray. So it was like turned into sweat, and they changed some of the fatalities and all of
So
that
like
too.
getting really tired, like the whistle cramp. You can't get your spine yanked out of your body, but you just kind of like cramp a little bit and fall over. Fatality.
Sub-Zeros would chop off the head and pull the spine out actually by the head, but then it was changed to, which was actually more appropriate for Sub-Zero in the Super Nintendo, would freeze the body and then uppercut and it'd shatter.
Oh yeah, that's a better one.
It is better, but it's not as gory. So
think about this. This is another thing I thought of that the kind of people who clamor for an arachnophobia mode and who would say that it's a necessary addition to the game. What do you think they would think about a homophobia mode that removes all the gay characters from games? I mean, if their argument,
they'd be as say no, that's inappropriate. And,
right. Well, I mean, if the argument is that I have particular tastes, I have some particular or distaste rather for spiders, and they make me
or gay people,
whatever, or they make me uncomfortable, and therefore, in order to make the game accessible to me and an enjoyable experience for me, I require that you put in a toggle that removes these things that I dislike. Well, why wouldn't that argument also apply for a homophobia mode?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's very funny and also
right.
a meaningful argument. Like, we can't just go in and say, "What preferences do you have for this?" Like, when did we think we have the right to all these preferences? That's like the annoying thing. Yeah. And I think it's
the
result
world
of like thoughtless
built.
Technology. Like, we can toggle all these modes. Let's just so it's basically your engineers that aren't philosophers. It's their fault. So they started offering these, so we became to expect it. We didn't think about the ramifications. I think that's part of it.
I think you might be right. Yeah. I mean, people have been trained to think that the world should cater to them. Instead of the people adapting to the world or bettering themselves or whatever. Like, one of this, you made the distinction that I totally agree with, where colorblind mode is a physical disability. Like, there's no changing that. Whereas arachnophobia is not even really a disability. It's just a phobia. Like, it's a psychological reaction that can be overcome. And video games are a perfect place for exposure therapy. In fact, if I ever make a video game, I'm going to put an arachnophobia mode in the game that increases the number of spiders and puts
that
them...
would actually be a reasonable thing to do.
I know,
like,
because...
you put it in arachnophobia mode, and it means,
It means I'm going to help you overcome your arachnophobia by, putting spiders in the game.
The right thing to do is triple the spiders.
Triple the spider count. But, I guess thinking about exposure therapy, the real right thing to do, because the reason exposure therapy works is because it's a voluntary confrontation of your fears or what makes you uncomfortable. So you would actually have to know that spiders are in the game and be willing to interact with the game and the spiders anyway.
Yes.
And that would actually be beneficial to your overcoming your arachnophobia. So, or maybe
And
I just don't bother thinking about it too much, and I put an arachnophilia mode in the game, and I rely on them not knowing the word appropriately, and they click it thinking one thing, and then spiders appear all over their screen. So.
I'm, I just if I grew up culturally in which like there were expectations of my preferences, the world bending to my preferences, and like on the playground, instead of talking about which girls we thought were the prettiest, we're also talking about which phobias do you have, and we're kind of glorifying these weaknesses. I honestly think that that's not far from part of the discussions that happen with kids today. Is kind of picking
Yeah.
out their like
What makes
elevating
you
their
special?
weaknesses as
Right.
moments of identity, and so and then elevating those and then solidifying those. And so
Right.
I think we're seeing that's how I interpret seeing the emergence of arachnophobia mode. Like it upsets me pretty deeply.
Right. And another thing, we've been discussing the weakness on the consumer side, but I also think there's a weakness on the creator side. The developers who are willing to put this mode in their game are exhibiting a weakness. They're sacrificing artistic vision. They're allowing their
Yes.
game to be designed by committee in a way to appeal to to these people when they really shouldn't be doing that. They should
This
be
is
holding
all the
firm.
same problem when I can't help but relate it to education and like an independent schools and the shift toward we used to be institutions that had like moral fiber and operated under a certain like this is what we believe, send your kid to us and we will your kid will come out of the institution with some of the morals that we've imparted upon them and like operate in the world the way that we kind of see fit. And that was a trust exercise on parents, and the parents obviously they have their options, so they look at the school, they say we like what you're talking about, we want
Yeah.
our kid to have that. And now it's like we're treated like a bespoke product, a high-end product in which customization is the norm. So they send and say I want this and this for my kid, and I don't want this and this. And to your point about the developers, like we're like independent schools are a business, so they say okay, the customer's always right, the parent, like let's do it to the degree that we can. And we've just slid a lot to where that's like not, I mean it's just a problem. It is holistically.
While you're saying that, it made me think of an argument against myself. Because, sometimes whenever I visit you, we're thinking about restaurants to go try out, and there's always one where the owner is like some jackass, burger chef or whatever, and the menu says no changes allowed
Yeah.
for the burgers. And this bothers me because, as you know, I, as a rational human being, hate pickles, and a lot of burgers have pickles on them. And
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of lettuce or tomato either, or raw onions. And so all of these things are very common burger toppings. And if I were to go to a restaurant that had those things on their burger, I would say, "Can you not put that on the burger, please?"
Right.
And there are some restaurants that would say, "No, you must
Yes.
eat the burger as we present the burger."
Or
And
we
that
will serve it to you. You can pick it up.
Yeah,
if
you can
want,
pick it
I
off
guess
if you
would
want.
be.
But that annoys me.
Yes.
And should it? Like, am I a person who wants am I essentially in my soul a person who wants arachnophobia mode in video games because
you
I don't
think-
want pickles on my burger?
If you think the government should come in and tell them, or if you think, I guess that's not the same. Your annoyance is there's something analogous to what you're saying.
I mean,
So I think-
ultimately,
but
I'm not as bad because I just don't go to their restaurant, and it
yes,
doesn't
you would
bother me that
ultimately
much.
just say I don't. I'm just not. Which is the point. Like the person with
Right.
like the true arachnophobia person, which 3 to 6% is absurd.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
too
the
much.
real is like 0.0001. Like really, like the kind that is having trouble leaving their house or even within their house, like has put so many chemicals that they're like having trouble breathing because they just need every damn spider killed, and like that's arachnophobia. Like it's
Yeah, yeah,
affecting
yeah.
their
Their life, yeah.
But like I don't buy, like you would just not go to the restaurant and you would probably speak ill of the restaurant, if someone
Mm-hmm.
mentioned them, like, and that's actually like that's fine, like you should do that. But if you were said no restaurant, like I'm
You
gonna go
owe
back
me.
there and I'm gonna protest and say you're wrong for thinking you have crafted a burger. Like surely you will concede that like they have an artistic vision and they want to serve it to that, and they're unyielding, and there's even some reverence toward, well, like that's the whole idea, is when they say they won't do it, they know they're appealing to a certain crowd who says, I like that this chef is so steadfast in their belief of their perfection that they've created this culinary experience that they're not going to yield. Like that excites enough people that's why they do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some room for bargaining here. Like the claim, the implied claim of the chef is that they know better. They know what tastes better than I do. That's the claim, right? They know the right composition of flavors.
Trust us that this comes together for an experience we've worked
Right.
on, we've labored over. Yeah.
And so I would say, okay, if you know better, then you can serve me the thing how you want to serve it. And if I try it and don't like it, then I don't have to pay for it. Because you know better,
Send it
right?
back. Like, yeah.
Right. And I would take that bargain, and I would take a bite of pickles and I would vomit all over the table, and I would say, I'm not paying for this, clean it up. And I would leave, and I walk out with my head held high. But there's also another.
I think we're too far down that track. But like, I think you are the person that wants customization in a world that, like, but food.
There's a distinction, right? Like video games are more close to art to me, right? Like there are artists who work on the creation of a video game versus a burger. Like, is it art? I mean, come on. Like, no.
No, and in fact, when it comes, there's a famous saying, when it comes to preferences, there is no debate. Like, there's no argument to be had. It's preference, and like, and video games and movies, you could say preferences for horror movies, and I get all of that, but I mean, like, narrative building, storytelling, like, this isn't like I'm coming in with my preferences and you're meeting me where my preferences are. This is like, I've cultivated an experience and I'm inviting you in. Do you want to have the experience or not? Whereas a restaurant is like, the reason they don't have just one item on the menu is because they're like, why don't they have just one item? Seriously, because obviously,
right, they want a variety.
They want to appeal to multiple preferences. Like, that's the idea.
What about a restaurant? Sorry, I'm going far afield here, but what about a restaurant that refuses to prepare their steaks well done? Is that acceptable?
I mean, to me it is, but I'm also more in it's acceptable for a restaurant. It even excites me
a
little.
Yeah, it's acceptable. I mean, I agree. Like, from a first principles standpoint, I think that businesses should be able to do whatever they want. I mean, I think that free association, we restrict that way too much in the United States. Like, this is wild sounding, but if you want to restrict women from your restaurant, or black people, or any minority or majority, or anyone, you should be allowed to, and people should just call you a jerk and not visit your restaurant or whatever. Because you have the right to free association, and we infringe on that given our current laws. Yeah. And so, like, you should be able to say, sorry, we're not serving you a well-done steak, or we're not going to give you ketchup with your steak, which they would say to me, because it's okay, everyone, it's okay to eat ketchup with your steak. It's actually, it's the classy thing to do now.
Science, it's been complimentary. Yeah.
But they would not do that, and I would be annoyed and I would leave, but they would be within their rights. And I could open up a competitor steak restaurant that serves gourmet ketchups with our steaks, and I would make more money than them, and I would catch the world by storm, and everyone would forget that ketchup was trashy on steak in the distant past.
I want to connect it back to arachnophobia though, and the, like, is there a parallel, like what's the lesson to be learned here? Should we just not care about them wanting arachnophobia? We should just say no, or should we actually go, it's similar to preferences? It's just like a video game experience, and like eating your food, it's not a video game experience is not a preference. It's not like vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream, or like, it's just not. Those are in preference category, and video games, of course, are. If I zoom out and say I have a preference toward mystery games or whatever, but I can't go into a mystery game and say I want the mystery to have this type of turn, or like, you must, like, it just doesn't. I need the character to be a female, or I can't. You're not allowed to insist on games that you want everything to be. Like, it's just not. If the game has any vision at all, like, stop it. Like, so.
I mean, I think the path forward is there's kind of two prongs to it. If the world were to progress as Bennett wants, then artists and game creators would not sacrifice, they would not be as willing to sacrifice their artistic vision. Now, sometimes budgetary concerns come in and you can't do everything, as a movie creator, you can't do all the special effects you want, or you can't get the actor you want and you have to make sacrifices. And that's understood, but you should vigorously and aggressively defend your artistic vision and only compromise when it would essentially jeopardize the entire project. Otherwise, don't compromise. That's from the creative end. And then from the consumer end, like, we should just stop glorifying victimization, weakness, and disability, and instead revert to valuing resilience, adaptability, and success, basically, strength and greatness and all of that. All of the good things that we used to hold in high regard, and now we kind of see as privileged and blasé, whereas we can all have our own unique snowflake design of weaknesses and disabilities and disorders, and that makes us that fills out our identity, and we can brag on our online forum about it. Like, that's just pathetic. People should just have more pride in themselves on the creator end and on the consumer end, and not be afraid of that. That's my take.
Well put. I think that's a good place to stop.
I think so too.
All right, man. It's over.
Do.
Bye.